Now that we've covered what the material is on chapter 2, we have enough tools to get the exercise done. I'm going to work part A with you. There's 3 parts, A, B, and C. In the first one, just like we did in the previous example, we're going to create a calculator that asks the user to input a number, and then we'll perform a calculation. In the sample, we asked for miles driven and gallons of gas used, and we divided them to calculate a miles per gallon. In part A, which I'm going to show you, we're going to enter a temperature in Fahrenheit. The sample has 32 because we know that 32 is freezing, and when it converts to Celsius, that should be 0. If you get 0.0, it's fine. If you get a number with lots of leading numbers afterwards, that's fine as well. See, in the sample, if you put in 72, you get 22.22222 infinity. In the next one, which you will be working on your own, both of these, parts B and C, you have to find out how to calculate the area of a trapezoid, and same thing with the part C, where you will pick area of a circle, ellipse, cone, etc., and do a similar calculator for it. Now, I don't expect you to know right off the bat what the formula is to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, so you can always just Google it. I'll click a new tab and ask Mr. Google here to give me the answer, and that is convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, and it already gives me a calculator. As you can see, if we put in 32, we get the answer 0. In the other sample, it says that if we put in 72, we should get 22.222. So let's try that number, which is 72, and there's our 282.22. Now, sure, we already have calculators that do this, but we want to program our own. What I'm looking for in this page is the formula. It's right here. It's telling me that it's calculating 72 by subtracting 32 from the original number and then multiplying by 5/9, 5 nines. I'm going to go back into my repl.it, where I'm still running the miles driven, and I'm going to, well, I need to do a new repl, so I'll click on the button on the top left. I'm still using Python, and this will be called temperature. I'm going to get a new IDE, a new development environment, and once it loads, which it does pretty quick, and then I have a blank slate to work with inside of temperature. So I have figured out, or rather found out, that the formula is going to be whatever the temperature that it's input is going to have 32 subtracted from it, and then it's going to be multiplied by 5/9. So to do a little bit of math on REPL, well, before I do the math anyway, I need to ask the user to input, well, what do I want to call this? I'll call it ftemp for the temperature in Fahrenheit. It's going to be equal to the input with a question that says, as stated in the sample, enter temperature in Fahrenheit. If I misspell Fahrenheit at any point, I apologize. After that, it's going to then tell me, or rather generate the Celsius transformation. So I will be printing a message that says the temperature in Celsius is, and then comma, and then do the math here. Well, or maybe not necessarily there. Let's do it before, right after our first line. I'll put in a space, and I'll introduce another variable, and we'll call that ctemp. That'll be the temperature in Celsius, and say that the math is going to be whatever the temperature is in Fahrenheit, ftemp, and we said it was going to be minus 32. I'm going to put that inside of parentheses so that it does this operation on its own. This is going to be, if it's 32 minus 32, this will be 0. Then we're going to multiply it by, let's see, 5 divided by 9. So I'll say 5 divided by 9. I can either put the parentheses here or not, since the order of operation will do the multiplication and the division in the way it's supposed to be. And now that I see that Fahrenheit actually has an H before the R, I'll add that, Fahrenheit. So the temperature in Fahrenheit is whatever the user inputs. Then a calculation will be done to create a C temp, that's the temperature in Celsius, by taking the original temperature given by the user, subtracting 32, and then multiplying it by 5 divided by 9, by 5/9. And then it's going to print a message that says that the temperature in Celsius is, and then a comma to separate that, and just say C temp, so that it'll show what the temperature is. Let me try to run it. Enter the temperature in Fahrenheit. We said that we're going to try 32 because we know that the answer should be 0. And I get an error. And I get an error because, as I showed you in the last video when I demonstrated the input, it's not enough to just ask the user to give us a number. A number input by the user in enter temperature in Fahrenheit, and giving that value to ftemp will keep the value as a string. And what we really want, we want a floating number, so we have to add the function float before it, open up a parentheses, and then make sure that at the very end of this statement add another parentheses. So we're getting the temperature in Fahrenheit is a floating number of the input generated by the user, enter temperature in Fahrenheit. The temperature then will be converted by applying the formula that it's whatever the temperature is minus 32 times 5/9, and then print the message with the final temperature. Let me run this again, and hopefully this will be the last time. I'll say 32, and I get that the temperature in Celsius is 0. The other sample that we use, or that we saw, was 72, should give us 22.22, etc. I'll run that again and give it the value 72, and I get the result. The temperature in Celsius is 22.22222 to infinity. Once this and all of your separate files are done, temperature is the name of my program, and yours should be called temperature as well. It should be in your account. My account idtprof is already here on display. I need you to copy this URL, just select the whole thing, copy that, and turn that in as your assignment for part A. When you do part B and part C, I also need the links to those, and you should turn those in as well. Make sure that you work on separate files for each one of these separate parts. That's Google. We come back here. This is going to be your temperature. Over here, you'll find out what the area of a trapezoid is, just like we did with the temperature. And create a new file called trapezoid, and then equate, or rather calculate how you're going to do that. And then part C, same thing. Pick one of these equations and find out how to do it with the math, and then write a small program that will give you a result for any of these problems. You can do the volume of a cone, the volume of a sphere, area of an ellipse, and just ask Google, like we did with Fahrenheit to Celsius, how to get that formula. Work it into your own file. Make sure, like I said, that you're working on a separate file. So this one's already called temperature. Just create a new repl, and give it the Python and trapezoid. Find out what the area of a trapezoid, or how it's going to be calculated, and just go back and make reference to the code that you just typed. It's going to be very similar, except you'll be using a separate or a different formula for the remainder of the labs. And that should complete chapter 2.